Last time on Taste of Oxford, we discovered Ironworks Kitchen. We're still under the pandemic right now, but they're doing curbside and takeout. So enjoy Ironworks Kitchen until the kitchen opens and we can all sit down and have a great meal. One other thing you may notice is our city, the landscape's changed a bit. As we'll see going down Dundas Street, there's a little more action than regular. And good action. Netflix is filming a show here, Lock and Key. So look forward to seeing that. They also filmed some scenes in Ironworks. They must have saw something in Ironworks Kitchen to make a nostalgic feeling, old town feeling. Our next guest from Royal Turban, Ajeet, had that same feeling coming to Woodstock. His energy is unmatched. His ideas about the city, his ideas of his restaurant, you'll see. It's amazing, amazing time, amazing conversation. Led to so many great topics. Check it out. Here we can slow down, we can take it easy, get to know your neighbors, you know your neighbors' names, you know, it's that's how you grow.
I think they're more content with life. But in GTA, you have most of the people are on international platforms, so they are always like, they are born in that way, in a competitive environment. So they set up goals every year and they try to outclass themselves.
Yeah.
So it's on the outside, it occurs to us like it's a mad rush, which is not. You're not gonna achieve much in life after that.
Yeah.
Because at some point of time you figure it out that it is something. It's a never-ending race, you know. And at that time you figure out that you wasted a lot of time.
Yeah. By that time you're retired and you haven't been able to enjoy much, and then
and
now
you
you
feel
have to.
that you're all alone now because you outrun everybody. That now nobody's there to stay with you.
Exactly. Yeah.
In
And
a
it goes so
small town,
quick
like
too.
everybody has time to devote to each other. So people just for the old time's sake, they drop in. They make good conversations.
Yeah, for sure.
And that is how I got to know about Duane. I just went in for some framing and we had a conversation other than the framing thing.
Yeah, exactly, right.
And I think that's the very reason I opted to come to this small town. I come from back in India. I come from Delhi. You know, Delhi is
big city, right? Yeah,
Delhi is capital, and you know it's the financial hub of the country.
Yeah.
So what happens is that in Delhi, being brought up in that kind of an environment, I figured that out that there's something wrong in life. There is something that I'm not able to achieve even after working for 20 years. So financially on the outside, I was very successful. People look upon me saying that, see, this guy he has achieved almost whatever everybody aspires in life. He achieved in but inside I used to figure out there is something that's missing.
Yeah.
This is not something I'm cut out for. And then I looked upon the option of moving to Canada. Now, Canada is my kind of country. Landscapes, natural landscapes, and not too busy.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of room to grow,
and
freedom. We have that sense of space.
So when for the first time in 2018, when I landed at the Toronto airport, I said, no, this is not the kind of a country I wanted to come with.
The airport can be a little busy in place. Yeah.
But as we drove away from it, like my friend where I stayed for the first time, used to stay in Oakville. So as we moved away from the GTA, at that time I was not familiar to the area, but as we moved away from the GTA area, and then I started looking at, the highway, then you see all the greenery all around. I figured that, yes, this is the kind of a country. Because before coming to Canada, the way Canada is marketed all over the world, it is like a natural paradise. So initially I found myself in a concrete jungle, and gradually as we drove I think good 25-30 minutes away from it, I figured that out. No, that was just a temporary phase.
Yeah, exactly.
And
because we have the best of everything. We have mountains, lakes, rivers, streams. Everything all combines. But then, the concrete
it's
jungle.
It's a heaven on earth. It's a kind of a heaven you can move to without dying.
As we spoke to Ajeet, we discovered what brought him to Canada, Oxford County, more specifically Woodstock, Vansittart Ave, beautiful, picturesque Victorian-style street here in Woodstock. Ajeet will tell you more about this street than most of us may have known. As you'll learn, his fascination of Vansittart goes deeper than just the street.
So when I came to Woodstock, my my journey to Woodstock was not defined. We were traveling to Sarnia, and Woodstock was our stopover.
Oh, okay.
So this is how I came to Woodstock. So we took a break from that long drive, and we came here to catch up some quick snacks.
Okay.
And to reach out to a few places here. So I went to the Dundas. I saw the old city hall and the museum over there.
Yep.
And then I also saw that a big church over there. And then I saw suddenly there is an old factory over there right on the Dundas. I think the history goes back to more than 150 years.
Oh, for sure.
And then Charles Dickens pub. Like, I mean, it was something, it had a European flair to it.
For sure.
Something I figured that out there. Yes, I was looking for this thing. Old brick house with the brick chimneys, traditional Victorian house. I also happened to go to the Vansittart Avenue. So I figured that this is the place I was looking
This
for.
is where this is what you were looking for the whole time,
And
right?
in fact, it was like a city right out of my, I read a lot of novels. So when I was young, I was reading a lot of European writers,
Okay.
especially the English writers. So this was the city right out of those novels. So this is, I always...
So you could already picture it, and now you're seeing it for real,
Yes,
right?
and to me, it was a surprise of my life. I said, okay, this is the place I would stay for the rest of my life.
Yeah. The architectural culture that we have in this community keeps that old world flavor. But as we grow new buildings and new housing, and we may lose some of that, but I think the core is always going to be there. If we can keep that, and we keep ourselves that way, and that in our thoughts as well, it can keep that balance. And I think you always need the balance, as there's a balance of even hot, so have some yogurt to curb the balance of the heat, right? If it is too hot for you, get some milk or get some yogurt, some dairy products that'll help curb the heat, right? So I know with a few people that they find, like you say, Indian food is hot, but it's not about the heat, it's the spice level. So if you can keep the spice level at your comfort, just like you keep your neighbors at a comfortable distance, everyone's safe, so we're all safe, then we can go to the future. And I think as we see in future generations, people are more open-minded to change, to try new experiences. It's not just the meat and potatoes that you eat every day. It's not having a hamburger every day. Let's try some other things. Let's try a vegetarian menu for a week. Or at least a day. Let's try not to eat meat for a day. And then try a vegetarian. Try some different breads. Try a roti. Try some naan bread. Come experience the Royal Turban for really what it is, and the culture and the history, and like you say, the dining experience, making an experience rather than just filling your belly. So
Absolutely. And this is the effort that we really wanted to make in. So the whole idea behind this whole thing was to give an unmatchable kind of an experience. And I think we've been able to create that over here. If you can forget where you are from where you are coming from, and then the way you just, this whole thing, you imbibe the environment, and you can just forget about everything. So it is just like traveling in time.
Exactly.
So this is exactly was the theme before launching on this restaurant. Take you to a new era.
Yeah.
So going in a different, and I think this is why I selected Woodstock, because Woodstock as a town also represents this kind of a thing. Everything around, I mean, if you look at the Kitchener, the Cambridge, the London, Hamilton, these are all the towns around Woodstock. So they have grown over a period of time. So they have become, they have taken up the status of modern cities. But if you look at the Woodstock still holds that charm. Like you said, in the core, it is still that old country. Where I remember the Rear Admiral Vansittart, he came here, then the Victor Dundas, who designed everything over here.
Yeah.
So they people are the one who created the Woodstock at that time.
Yeah, you see it within the names of buildings and streets, and the heritage is always there, and will always be remembered through that too, right? So it's important that I think people that come to Woodstock and come to Oxford County, we're setting the standards for the future, but it all comes from what you learned from the past too. So to know your past is very important too, especially coming to a new place, and it kind of gives you a sense of direction too. It gives you a sense of like knowing history will help for the future.
Had a conversation with a lot of people around, and they said that this location is quite promising location in times to come.
Very close to the 401 and 403.
Absolutely. Two major highways cutting across here, and then we have a lot of hotels around here.
Yep.
So a lot of travelers coming all the way from US, they stay here.
And the conference center they're building down the road there.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of crowd pullers here as well. If you look at all the big joints like Winners is here, Boston Pizza, A&W, Montana's, Kelsey's, Starbucks has also come up over here.
Yeah.
So this occurred to me as financial point of view. This occurred to me a more promising thing, a thing that's gonna grow up. And I think that if I'm not wrong, the financial, the properties, everything in the Woodstock has grown exponentially in last 2 years.
Oh, for sure. We've seen it grow from the downtown core. Now it's out towards here to the 401 and reaching off of here into more plaza styles rather than the downtown element. That we're lacking at the same time. We understand growth. It takes effect, right? And you're going to have these plazas growing. And how do we get the downtown core back? But I think the more people we get, like yourself, coming to Woodstock with an open mind, it will, over time, eventually regrow itself back. And it's just going to take an effort by our community and local support to make that happen.
I really find myself to be blessed to be at the right time and in the right place.
Exactly.
So we entered Woodstock right at that time the buzz was about to start.
Yeah.
And looking back, you see that the property prices, and I think around 10 to 20,000 people are defined to settle in this city in next 5 years. So this time, I would say the time of Woodstock has now come to grow.
Interesting to find out, Ajeet wasn't intending to come to Woodstock. Rather, it was a stopover. As we grow more in Oxford County, over 125,000 by 2030, in Woodstock alone, 55,000 by 2030, we see growth, we see opportunity, we see the vision that Ajeet speaks about. But we always remember the past, what brought us here. The Van Sitterns, the Hunter Streets, the Graham Streets. What's in your neighborhood? What do you want us to discover next on Taste of Oxford?
I remember when we first opened the doors, and people were almost astonished to look in and say, is this really a Woodstock thing?
Yeah.
Because to this day, people get surprised. Like, we never expected a kind of ambience and the opulence that we operate here. Maybe the reason goes that we have, both of us, me and my friend and my partner, the business partner, Satya Prakash Singh, we had absolutely no experience of building up a restaurant.
Yeah.
So when you start working, and we didn't want to copy anybody, it was a very authentic and a genuine idea that came from that.
Oh, okay.
So the whole idea going behind the restaurant was to serve the community, not to make the profit, not to make it on a big scale or something like that. It was just about that anybody coming across, going through the restaurant experience should have that kind of a special feeling about it. So we were just more focused on this thing that we should make that visit a very purposeful visit, a very rememberable experience for any visitor that comes to see us.
Exactly. And that's what I took away from it, that I remembered kind of every moment of it because it was something different, and I think it takes that to really learn about a culture, really learn about the food and the culinary experience, and make it an experience rather than just coming in, getting a burger, and going home. You really want to taste the flavors in the soup, taste the fresh bread, enjoy the curries, the desserts. Have a lassi, and enjoy the actual cuisine and the preparation behind it and the time that it takes to make a curry. A lot of times people just think it's undo a package and throw it in. There's a lot of process to make curries and to make what makes Indian dishes so special is that every dish is so different than the next one. You know, you can't, and like you say, you're not duplicating anybody, you're bringing originality to it too. So maybe speak on that a little bit of the original flavors that you use, some of the influences that you have taken from the past that are bringing on to the future now with your menu.
If you look into the historical aspect of the Indian cuisine, it has always been the spices that had played a major role in that. And looking back into history, the tropical hot climate of Indian subcontinent was perfect for the spices to grow up the spices over in that kind of a terrain. And that is why for last 300 or 400 years, the Indian subcontinent has been the major source of spices on a global level.
Yeah, it was the spice trail essentially, right, to the rest of the world.
Absolutely. So the local cuisines that we used to prepare that were flavored with, I mean, there are hundreds of spices that are available, and if you multiply them with a combination that you can make, then the figures goes into a mind-boggling level. So you can have the same dish prepared in multiple spice level, depending upon the regional to the other regional aspect. Because there are a lot of cultures going. So you might have the same name of a spice, but same name of the dish, but you will find that as you travel across the country, the spices absolutely there's a local flavor that gets added to it. So the kind of a food that we are offering comes from the northern part of the country. So this is primarily as an influence from the northern India that we are offering at the moment, and which is also the most distinguished and the most acknowledgeable cuisine across the world, which is most related to the Indian cuisine that we are offering. People here confuse spices with the hotness, that is the chili. Now this is a misconception. People usually who take Indian food, they consider it to be a very hot food. Well, that's a misconception. Initially, maybe whosoever started up this thing here in Canada, maybe they had offered too much of a chili into that and made the dish too hot. So it turned out to be a local conception. But now, over a period of time, we have been able to break that misconception. So what people now understand that the different layers of spices that you acknowledge in an Indian food, that you and the aromas that you get from the Indian food, they are unmatchable.
Oh, exactly. That's what I appreciate the most is the aromas from it.
Absolutely, and it's very addictive.
Yes.
And this ambience and all, if you add that to it, so the whole experience becomes memorable. So if we come back to the ambience, I traveled a lot across the Europe, and I happened to visit a lot of castles over there. And I see that every castle used to have a distinct dining hall, which is specifically meant for the visitors, because in the colonial era, the Britishers travel all over the world, and they brought in all over the fancy craftsmanship, and they collected a lot of local fancy fare, and they just assembled in their dining halls over there for others to acknowledge. So this was the idea behind this decor. So we were able to collect as many things like the mirrors, specifically the center stage of the dining hall, that you look at it, they all are Venetian mirrors. So this is art, which dates back to around 600, 800 years old, and it used to be specifically made only for the kings and the landlords at that time. But somehow I got hold of the it's been this art has been transferred from generations to generations. So I got hold of the people who are right into this business to this day. So we got hold of that, and we prepared all these designs are very distinct designs, which each and every design relates to some era and was made for some king or some landlord at that time, the warlords, the people who could afford this kind of craftsmanship at that time. Other than that, we have like chandeliers, which are like glass chandeliers. Now it's again an art of creating the colored art.
Yeah, and I think art represents food, and food represents art a lot of times too. And you look at the plate; it's very artful, and if it matches the decor as well, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I still remember my friend said that the whole experience should be that one should escape from his monotony of a daily grind.
Mm-hmm.
And once you enter it, I think we have been able to deliver that kind of an experience. If you can forget about your own for all the time that you spend in this hall, and I would say that the effort was well done.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah. It flows nicely. Everything, right, with the chandeliers reflecting off the mirrors to even the chairs in the back table, and it's a very pleasant, almost like humbling experience when you come in, because like you say, there's a lot of the past that's represented now and into the future, and that's kind of what we talk about a lot on the show too. Is that, and what we love to see in Oxford is the appreciation of old Oxford, of old Woodstock, but it's the new that's coming, and the new people that are coming to Oxford, and how we can incorporate and grow into the future. That's right, because I think that's what people are missing the most right now, is just to have that dinner with their family and their friends, and to sit down and just take a load off and forget everything that kind of came our way this year.
I remember
right?
that before COVID, and it was last December, people used to come here and sit for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, right.
And for me, it was such a delightful experience.
Exactly.
That if they could absorb themselves in this ambience, there would be nothing more satisfying than to me other than that.
Yeah,
I think it was an effort well done.
Yeah, exactly, and that kind of answers my next question, because we like to ask all of our restaurants that we go to, what do you bring to the table? So I think you really kind of answered it there, but is there one thing in specific that you want to leave kind of as your benchmark, as your kind of takeaway when somebody comes here, when they leave? Oh, I went to Royal Turban. What's kind of what do you want people to remember you best by?
I aimed at delivering the most royal, most opulent dining experience to my customers. This was something I figured that out before setting up this restaurant. And to back that up with the unmatchable, impeccable food experience that I wanted to deliver. So when this restaurant was designed, it was designed around as if it would be for the royals. So everything that you see here is being laid out in a manner that the guest arriving would be a noble or a royal.
Okay.
And that is why the name Royal Turban.
Ah.
Woodstock already have a lot of very fine dining, very exquisite restaurant dining experiences. And I would say that Royal Turban is just another jewel in the hat.
Exactly. Another
in the
crown
crown
jewel.
of Woodstock.
Yeah, we like to use that terminology too, of the crown jewels of Woodstock. And there's a few fine dining restaurants that are, and I would consider Royal Turban as one of them as well. So keep up the great work, and like we say, thank you very much for taking the time today, and we look forward to everyone coming in and filling up the restaurant for years to come.
Absolutely. Thank you for your wishes.
Thank you.
So now that we've learned about Ajeet, learned about Royal Turban, what it brings to the table, let's go to the table and eat some food. After all, Taste of Oxford is a cooking show. Can't wait to try it out. Can't wait for you guys to try it out. Check us out on the next episode of Taste of Oxford, where we go to Royal Turban, located by the 401 and Highway 59 in Woodstock. Can't wait to see you there.
Oxford.